If you ever think about ditching your fiancé at the altar just to marry a billionaire's daughter for her money, you'd better make sure your ex doesn't secretly control your family's entire supply chain. My name is Chloe. And 6 months ago, the man I loved for 7 years didn't show up to our wedding. He left me standing in a white dress in front of 200 guests, only to post a picture an hour later on a yacht with an heiress. He thought he was stepping into elite society. He thought I was just a heartbroken girl who would cry in the dark. But what he didn't know was that my private investment firm had been quietly buying up his family's debt for 3 years. And today, I'm walking into his boardroom as his new owner. The smell of white lilies filled the sunlit chapel in downtown Chicago. I stood behind the heavy oak doors, holding a bouquet of white roses, wearing a lace wedding dress that had taken 6 months to tailor. 200 guests were seated inside, soft organ music echoing through the stained glass windows. My father looked at his watch for the 4th time in 10 minutes, his face turning a deep shade of red. "Where is he, Chloe?" my father whispered, his voice tight with anger. "It's 45 minutes past 2. His best man isn't answering his phone either." My heart was pounding against my ribs like a trapped bird. I grabbed my phone from my maid of honor, fingers trembling as I dialed Ethan's number, straight to voicemail. Again. "Maybe there was traffic," I gasped, trying to convince myself, trying to hold back the tears stinging my eyes. Maybe his car broke down. Just then, my best friend Sarah ran into the bridal room, her face pale, holding her phone in front of her. "Chloe," Sarah whispered, her voice shaking. "You need to see this." She handed me the phone. It was an Instagram post uploaded 10 minutes ago by Victoria Sterling, the daughter of the city's biggest real estate tycoon. The photo showed Ethan, my fiancé of 2 years, wearing a pristine tux, laughing on a luxury yacht in Miami, holding a glass of champagne. Victoria was leaning against his chest, wearing a massive diamond ring. The caption read, "When you know, you know. Engaged to the love of my life. Wedding next month." The room went completely silent. Ethan hadn't gotten stuck in traffic. He hadn't been in an accident. He had boarded a private jet to Miami 2 hours before our wedding, dumping me without even a phone call, all to chase the Sterling family fortune. My mother burst into tears. Guests outside began whispering as the priest walked into the back room with a look of quiet pity. I stood there in my white dress, staring at the photo. For 7 years, I had supported Ethan. When his family's logistics company was struggling, I spent my nights helping him balance his books. I helped him write pitch decks. I introduced him to high-level clients. I gave him my youth, my love, and my trust. And he threw me away like a piece of trash for a bigger paycheck. "Chloe, I'm so sorry," Sarah sobbed, reaching out to hug me. I didn't cry. The tears that had been welling up in my eyes suddenly vanished, replaced by a cold, burning clarity. I slowly reached behind my back, unzipped my wedding dress, and let it fall to the floor. I pulled off my veil, set the flowers on the table, and put on my business suit. "Chloe," my father asked, startled by my sudden composure, "what are you doing?" I picked up my leather purse and checked my reflection in the mirror. My eyes were clear, sharp, and deadly. Ethan's father took out a $5 million high-interest loan last year to expand their shipping fleet, didn't he? I asked, my voice completely devoid of emotion. My father blinked, confused. "Yes, through a private equity group in New York." I looked my father in the eye and smiled a cold, razor-sharp smile. "Call Julian Mercer," I said. "Tell him my private investment firm is buying out that loan before 5 o'clock today." Ethan thought he was marrying into wealth. He had no idea. He had just handed me the keys to his family's execution. By 5 o'clock that evening, while my wedding guests were still leaving the chapel in confusion, Julian Mercer was signing the final transfer documents in his office. My private equity firm, Vance Capital, had officially purchased the $5 million high-interest loan note tied to Heiress Logistics, Ethan's family shipping company, to the bank in New York. It was a routine transfer. To me, it was the total purchase of Ethan's family lineage. Under the original loan contract, Ethan's father, Richard Heiress, had put up 80% of the company's private shares as collateral if Heiress Logistics missed a single quarterly payment, or if the loan holder demanded an immediate audit due to insolvency concerns. The creditor had the legal right to seize voting control of the entire board, and their next quarterly payment of $750,000 was due in exactly 48 hours. On Monday morning, Ethan returned to Chicago from Miami, feeling like a king. Through mutual acquaintances, I learned that he had invited Victoria Sterling to his family's corporate headquarters downtown. He wanted to show off the family business, boasting that Victoria's father was about to write a $10 million check to buy out the company's debt. He had no idea that Victoria's father, real estate tycoon Thomas Sterling, was one of the most ruthless businessmen in the Midwest. Thomas Sterling didn't write checks out of charity. He only invested in companies with clean balance sheets. At 2 o'clock that afternoon, a sleek black sedan pulled up outside the Heiress Logistics building. I stepped out, wearing a dark navy double-breasted suit, holding a leather briefcase stamped with the Vance Capital seal. Beside me was Julian Mercer, flanked by 2 senior financial auditors. We walked into the glass elevator, taking it directly to the executive boardroom on the 12th floor. Inside, the mahogany table was set with fresh coffee and pastries. Richard Heiress, Ethan's father, was sitting at the head of the table, looking stressed, pale, and exhausted. Ethan was standing near the window, holding a glass of scotch, laughing loudly with Victoria Sterling, who was wearing a pink designer dress and admiring her diamond ring. "Dad, don't worry about the debt," Ethan was saying loudly, waving his hand. "Once Thomas signs the partnership next week, $5 million is pocket change for us." The boardroom doors open. Ethan turned around, a smug, relaxed smile on his face, expecting to see a representative from the New York loan firm. When his eyes landed on me, his smile froze. The glass of scotch slipped from his fingers, shattering on the carpet. "Chloe," Ethan stammered, his face draining of all color. What are you doing here?" Richard Heiress stood up, blinking in utter confusion. "Chloe, sweetheart, what's going on? We were so sorry about the wedding. Ethan told us you two had a mutual agreement to call it off." I walked calmly to the center of the boardroom table, set my briefcase down, and looked directly into Ethan's terrified eyes. "Mutual agreement, Ethan?" I asked, my voice smooth, quiet, and razor-sharp. "Is that what you told your father after you boarded a private jet to Miami 2 hours before our wedding?" Victoria Sterling frowned, crossing her arms. "Who is this girl, Ethan? Is this the ex-girlfriend you said was stalking you?" I didn't even look at Victoria. I opened my briefcase, pulled out a crimson-bound legal portfolio, and slid it straight across the table to Richard Hayes. "Mr. Hayes," Julian Mercer announced, his deep voice filling the silent room. "We are not here to discuss personal matters. We are here as representatives of Vance Capital." Richard picked up the folder with trembling hands. Vance Capital. The New York Equity Fund sold the loan. They sold it 3 days ago, I said, leaning forward, resting my hands on the mahogany table. "To me." Richard Hayes' hand shook so violently that the papers in the crimson binder rattled against the mahogany table. He looked from the loan transfer agreement to me, his mouth opening and closing, his eyes wide with disbelief. "Evelyn, Vance Capital. You bought the note. $5 million in principal," Julian Mercer stated calmly, stepping beside me. "Along with the default rights, covenants, and personal guarantees signed by Richard Hayes." Ethan took a step toward me, his hands raised in panic. "Chloe, what is this game? You can't just buy our loan. You're a financial analyst. Where did you get $5 million? I didn't answer him. I simply looked at him with cold, unyielding silence. "She didn't buy it alone, Ethan," Victoria Sterling interjected, her voice sharp with growing suspicion. She turned to Ethan, her arms crossed tight. "Ethan, who is she really? You told me she was a broke freelancer who depended on you for rent." I, Ethan stammered, sweat glistening on his forehead under the bright office lights. "Victoria, babe, listen to me. She's lying. She's doing this out of jealousy because I left her." "Silence, Ethan." Richard Hayes slammed his fist onto the table, his face turning red. He looked at the financial statement in front of him. "Chloe, Vance Capital's parent entity is registered under your family's estate. Your father wasn't a retired clerk. He was senior partner at Vance and Sterling Investment Trust." Ethan froze. He turned his head slowly to look at me, as if seeing me for the very first time. "For 7 years, I had kept my family's wealth quiet. I wanted a man who loved me for who I was, not for my bank account. I had lived in a modest apartment, cooked dinner every night, and helped Ethan build his dream. And he had thrown me away, thinking Victoria Sterling was his ticket into wealth." "You lied to me," Ethan whispered, his voice cracking. "All those years, you had access to millions?" "I had access to trust, Ethan," I replied softly, my voice smooth as ice. "Until you traded it for a private jet to Miami." Julian Mercer pulled out a second document, setting it directly on top of the binder. "Mr. Hayes," Julian addressed Ethan's father, "under Section 9 of the loan agreement, Vance Capital is exercising its legal right to demand an immediate solvency audit. Furthermore, your quarterly debt service payment of $750,000 is due in exactly 48 hours. 48 hours? Richard gasped, sinking back into his chair. We don't have $750,000 in cash right now. We put all our liquidity into the new fleet expansion." "Then you are in technical default," Julian declared, "which triggers Clause 12B. Vance Capital automatically converts the debt into 80% voting equity, stripping the Hayes family of all executive authority." Ethan frantically turned to Victoria, grabbing her hands. "Victoria, call your dad. Tell Thomas to transfer the emergency fund right now. Just $750,000. He can buy out the entire company next week." Victoria looked at Ethan's desperate, sweating face. then looked at the crimson binder, then looked at me. Standing tall, composed, and in total control, she slowly pulled her hands out of Ethan's grip. "My father doesn't bail out liars, Ethan," Victoria said, her tone cold and distant. "You told me your family owned this company debt-free. You told me you were a self-made millionaire. You built our engagement on a pile of fraud." "Victoria." "No. Please," Ethan begged, stepping toward her. "Don't touch me," Victoria snapped, sliding the massive diamond ring off her finger and tossing it onto the mahogany table. It bounced twice, coming to a stop right next to my briefcase. She picked up her designer purse, turned on her heel, and walked straight out of the boardroom, the heavy doors slamming shut behind her. Ethan stood paralyzed in the middle of the room, watching his billionaire dream walk out the door. I picked up my briefcase, clicked it shut, and looked at Ethan and his father. 48 hours, Mr. Hayes," I said quietly. "Bring $750,000, or hand over the keys to your company." I turned around and walked toward the glass doors, leaving Ethan standing in the quiet ruins of his own greed. The 48 hours expired at precisely 2 o'clock on Wednesday afternoon. Ethan had spent those 2 days in a state of blind panic, driving around the city, desperately trying to get a meeting with Thomas Sterling. But Sterling's security team blocked him at the gates of his estate, and Victoria had blocked his number completely. He tried calling hard money lenders, private banks, even high-risk investment firms, but the moment they ran a credit check and saw Vance Capital's formal notice of default registered on the corporate docket, every single door was slammed shut in his face. 2:15. The elevator doors on the 12th floor opened. I walked into the corporate headquarters of Hayes Logistics once again. But this time I wasn't just holding a briefcase. I was accompanied by a court-appointed administrator, Julian Mercer, and a team of 6 corporate security officers. The executive floor was in total disarray. Junior managers were whispering in the hallways, holding stacks of unpaid vendor invoices. The company's accountants were sitting at their desks in stunned silence, knowing their payroll checks were frozen. I pushed open the doors to the main boardroom. Richard Hayes was sitting at the mahogany table with his head in his hands, looking utterly broken. Ethan was pacing back and forth near the window, his suit jacket off, his tie loosened, clutching a half-empty bottle of bourbon. "You're 15 minutes late, Chloe," Ethan snarled, spinning around, his eyes red bloodshot, trying to maintain a posture of defiance. "We're still negotiating a bridge loan with a private group in New York. You need to give us a 30-day extension." Julian Mercer stepped forward, opening a leather binder and placing 3 notarized court decrees on the center of the table. "The deadline was 2 o'clock sharp, Mr. Miller," Julian announced, his voice booming with legal finality. No extension was requested in writing, and no cure payment of $750,000 was remitted to Vance Capital's escrow account. Richard Hayes let out a long, heavy sigh, looking up at me with tired, defeated eyes. "It's over, Ethan. Stop embarrassing yourself." "No, Dad. It's not over," Ethan screamed, slamming his fist against the wall. "She's doing this out of spite. She's abusing her financial power because I dumped her." I walked slowly toward the head of the table, pulling out the plush leather chair that Richard Hayes had occupied for 30 years, and sat down. I rested my elbows on the mahogany surface, looking at Ethan with absolute calm. "Under Clause 12B of the credit agreement," I stated clearly, Your family's 80% voting shares have officially transferred to Vance Capital. Effective as of 2:15 p.m., Richard Hayes is removed as chairman, and Ethan Hayes is terminated from his position as chief operating officer. Ethan's mouth hung open. He dropped the bourbon bottle onto the carpet. You can't fire me from my own family business. It isn't your family business anymore, Ethan, I replied, my voice cool and sharp. It's a subsidiary of Vance Capital. I turned to the court administrator sitting beside Julian. Issue an immediate freeze on all corporate expense accounts, I ordered. Change the digital access codes to the shipping fleet management system, and instruct security to escort Mr. Ethan Hayes off the premises immediately. 2 heavy-set security officers stepped forward, moving toward Ethan. Get your hands off me, Ethan yelled, backing away toward the door, pointing a trembling finger at me. You think you won, Chloe? You bought a dying company. You'll be bankrupt in 6 months trying to keep this fleet afloat. I looked him dead in the eye and smiled a slow, devastating smile. I didn't buy this company to run it, Ethan, I whispered. I bought it to liquidate it. Ethan froze in the doorway, the color draining from his face once again. Phase 3 begins tomorrow morning, Julian, I said, turning my back on him. Let's put the shipping fleet up for public auction. By 9 o'clock on Thursday morning, the news of Vance Capital taking over Hayes Logistics had hit the front pages of every financial newspaper in the city. The headlines read, Hayes Logistics foreclosed. Entire shipping fleet set for public auction. The announcement sent shockwaves through the industry. Competitors who had been squeezed out by Richard Hayes for decades saw a golden opportunity. Dozens of corporate buyers, logistics executives, and private equity investors crowded into the grand ballroom of the Hilton downtown. I sat at the front table, dressed in an immaculate white suit, holding a mug of dark coffee. Julian Mercer sat beside me, reviewing the auction bids on his tablet, in the back row. Trying to hide behind a pillar was Ethan. He wore a wrinkled polo shirt, his eyes bloodshot, clutching a cheap folder. He had come to watch the death of his family's legacy, helpless to stop it. The auctioneer raised his gavel. Item number 1. 40 heavy-duty freight trucks and 32 commercial shipping routes across 5 states. Opening bid, $2 million. Hands shot up across the room. 2.5, shouted a representative from a Midwest freight company. 3 million, countered an international shipping firm. Ethan stared in disbelief as the company his father had spent 30 years building was carved up and sold off piece by piece in less than 45 minutes. Sold for $4.8 million to Apex Freight. The auctioneer barked, slamming his gavel. By the end of the morning, every single truck, every warehouse lease, and every shipping route owned by Hayes Logistics had been liquidated. The total proceeds from the auction reached $7.2 million. After paying off the $5 million loan note and covering legal fees, Vance Capital was left with a net profit of over $2 million. Julian leaned over, showing me the final closing ledger. All debts cleared, Chloe. The company name, Hayes Logistics, is now officially dissolved. I stood up, buttoning my jacket, and turned toward the back of the room. Ethan was standing near the exit, trembling with rage, his fists clenched tight. As I walked toward him, he stepped directly into my path. You destroyed us, Ethan hissed, his voice cracking with pure venom. My dad is sitting at home weeping. We have nothing left. You sold our entire life's work to our biggest competitors. I stopped just inches from him, looking at him with cool, undisturbed detachment. Your father put up 80% of the company as collateral to fund your extravagant lifestyle, Ethan. I said quietly. You spent $200,000 of company money renting private jets to impress Victoria Sterling. I was trying to save us, Ethan yelled, causing several nearby buyers to turn and stare. If you had just given us an extension, Thomas Sterling would have invested. I let out a soft, pitying laugh. Thomas Sterling called my office an hour ago, Ethan, I revealed, watching his eyes widen in horror. He bought 3 of your old warehouse leases at the auction. He told me he was glad Victoria broke off the engagement. He called you a penniless fraud. Ethan looked as if he had been slapped across the face. He staggered back against the wall, speechless. You threw away 7 years of devotion for a dream that was built on lies. I whispered. Now, you have no company, no heiress, and no future. I walked past him through the glass doors, stepping into the bright afternoon sun. Where to next, Chloe? Julian asked, opening the door to my sedan. I took a deep breath, smiling. Send a copy of the bankruptcy filing to Ethan's apartment, I said. Phase 4 is making sure he never works in logistics again. 3 weeks after Hayes Logistics was liquidated, Ethan was desperate. His apartment landlord had handed him an eviction notice after his credit cards were permanently declined. He had sold his luxury watch and his sports car just to pay off 2 months of back rent. But the money was running out fast. Ethan thought he could put the past behind him, update his resume, and get a high-paying executive job at another logistics firm in Chicago. After all, he had 10 years of executive experience on paper. He didn't realize that I had already closed every single door in the Midwest. On Tuesday morning, Ethan walked into the glass tower of Titan Freight Systems, the second largest logistics corporation in the state. He was applying for the position of regional vice president. He sat across from the chief operating officer, a stern, gray-haired man named Marcus Vance, who happened to be my uncle, Mr. Miller. My uncle said, flipping through Ethan's resume with a slow, deliberate rhythm. Your qualifications look impressive on paper. Managing director at Hayes Logistics, handling major client accounts. Ethan leaned forward, forcing a confident, charm-filled smile. Thank you, Mr. Vance. I brought a lot of growth to Hayes Logistics. I'm ready to bring that same energy to Titan Freight. My uncle set the resume down, resting his hands on top of a thick manila folder. Tell me, Ethan, my uncle asked, his voice calm and unreadable. Why did Hayes Logistics collapse so suddenly last month? Ethan's smile faltered for a fraction of a second. Oh, well, it was a strategic decision by the board. Market volatility and unexpected creditor shifts forced an early asset sale. It was beyond my control. My uncle opened the manila folder, pulling out a certified court audit report. That's interesting, my uncle noted, pushing the report across the desk. Because according to the forensic audit conducted by Vance Capital, you withdrew $200,000 of corporate funds for private jet rentals, falsified financial projections to secure predatory loans, and defaulted on a $750,000 debt service. Ethan's face went pale, his throat suddenly drying up. That was an administrative misunderstanding, sir. Is it also a misunderstanding? My uncle continued, leaning forward. that the National Logistics Association received a formal ethics complaint regarding your breach of fiduciary duty? Ethan froze. An ethics complaint? Effective yesterday morning, my uncle declared, his voice cold and final. Your executive license was placed under administrative suspension. No accredited logistics firm in North America can legally employ you in a management role without risking their own corporate compliance. Ethan stumbled out of his chair, his hands shaking. You can't do this. Who filed that complaint? My uncle leaned back in his leather chair, smiling quietly. Chloe Vance. My uncle replied. She made sure your name is permanently flagged in every corporate registry from Chicago to New York. Ethan backed away toward the door, terror in his eyes. He realized the terrifying truth. I hadn't just taken his company. I hadn't just exposed his lies to the Sterlings. I had erased his entire career. By 6 o'clock on Friday evening, Ethan had officially hit absolute rock bottom. He couldn't get a job in logistics. His bank accounts were drained, and his luxury high-rise apartment was locked by the landlord. He was forced to move into a dingy one-bedroom apartment on the edge of town, surrounded by cardboard boxes. He was convinced that if he could just find the original loan files and private equity ledgers, he could discover a legal loophole to sue Vance Capital. At 2 o'clock in the morning, Ethan made the biggest mistake of his life. Driven by booze and desperation, Ethan drove his beat-up sedan to my private estate in the suburbs. He parked 2 blocks away, put on a dark hoodie, and snuck through the back gate of my property. He thought I was sleeping. He thought he could break into my home office, steal my backup hard drives, and find something to blackmail me with. What he didn't know was that my security system was connected directly to my phone and a private security firm. The moment he forced open the glass patio door, a silent alarm triggered. I sat in my upstairs master bedroom, watching the live camera feed on my phone. Ethan was stumbling through my study, frantically opening desk drawers, pulling out file folders, and sweating profusely. I didn't panic. I simply picked up my phone, dialed the local precinct, and gave them the exact room he was in. Within 4 minutes, flashing red and blue lights illuminated the entire driveway. 3 armed police officers rushed into the house, their flashlights cutting through the dark study. Police, don't move. Hands where we can see them, an officer shouted. Ethan froze, dropping a stack of legal documents onto the carpet, his hands trembling above his head. Officers, wait. This is a misunderstanding, Ethan pleaded, crying hysterically. I used to live here. This is my ex-fiancé's house. I was just getting my personal belongings. I walked slowly down the grand staircase, dressed in a silk robe, flanked by Julian Mercer, who had driven over immediately. I've never lived with this man, officer, I said, my voice smooth, calm, and completely unbothered. He is a former business associate who defaulted on a loan, and he broke into my residence at 2 in the morning. The lead officer looked at the shattered patio glass, then looked at the duffel bag Ethan was holding, packed with my private financial files. Mr. Miller, the officer said, clicking handcuffs around Ethan's wrists. You're under arrest for felony burglary, criminal trespass, and attempted theft. As they dragged Ethan out the front doors, Julian Mercer handed the police supervisor a pre-drafted legal packet. Officer, Julian said firmly, we are also serving an emergency civil harassment order and an ex parte restraining order. Mr. Miller is legally barred from coming within 500 yards of Evelyn Vance, Vance Capital, or any associated properties. Ethan turned his head, looking at me with bloodshot, desperate eyes as he was shoved into the back of the police cruiser. "Chloe, please!" Ethan screamed through the closed window. "Don't do this to me. I have nowhere else to go." I stood on the front porch, watching the police car drive away into the dark night. I looked at Julian, buttoned my robe, and took a deep breath of the cool night air. "Prepare phase 5, Julian," I said quietly. "Let's make sure he pays for every dollar of damage." 6 months after his arrest at my estate, Ethan stood in the county criminal court, facing a judge and jury for felony burglary, criminal trespass, and attempted theft. He was wearing an oversized faded dark blue jumpsuit. His hands were cuffed at his waist, and his posture was completely broken. Gone was the smug, ambitious man who had abandoned me at the altar for a shot at billionaire wealth. Beside him stood an overworked public defender, shuffling through a thin stack of legal papers. Across the aisle, Julian Mercer and I sat with the state prosecutor. The judge struck his gavel 3 times, the loud wooden cracks echoing off the marble walls. "Court is now in session. The people of Illinois versus Ethan Miller." The prosecutor didn't need flashy speeches. The evidence against Ethan was overwhelming. First, the prosecution played the crystal-clear night vision security footage, showing Ethan shattering my patio glass, entering my private office, and stuffing my confidential financial files into his duffel bag. Next took the stand the lead police officer, presenting the physical duffel bag and the sworn statements taken on the night of the break-in. Finally, Julian Mercer took the stand, testifying to Ethan's history of financial desperation, his defaulted loan, and his pattern of aggressive harassment. Ethan's public defender tried to argue for leniency, claiming Ethan was suffering from severe psychological distress caused by the sudden bankruptcy of his family's business. When the jury returned after less than 45 minutes, the foreperson stood up. On the charge of felony burglary, guilty. On the charge of criminal trespass, guilty. On the charge of grand theft, guilty. Ethan slumped forward on the table, burying his face in his trembling hands, weeping quietly. The judge looked down at him over his reading glasses, his tone cold and unforgiving. "Mr. Miller," the judge declared, "you abandoned a loyal partner at the altar, defrauded investors, and ultimately resorted to nighttime burglary and intimidation when your greed backfired. You have shown zero remorse and total disregard for the law." The judge slammed his gavel down. "I sentence you to 4 years in state prison, followed by 2 years of mandatory probation." As the bailiff stepped forward to lead Ethan away in handcuffs, Julian Mercer stepped up to the defense table, handing Ethan's public defender a secondary civil judgment. "What is this?" the attorney asked, bewildered. "A civil restitution order for $250,000. Julian explained smoothly, loud enough for Ethan to hear. "For property damage to Evelyn Vance's estate, security upgrades, and legal costs. Effective today. A lien is attached to any future wages or assets Ethan Miller ever earns for the next 20 years. Ethan turned his head toward me as he was led through the side doors, his eyes filled with tears, defeat, and absolute regret. "Chloe, please," Ethan sobbed. "I have nothing left." I sat in the quiet courtroom holding my mug of coffee, looking at him with cool, undisturbed peace. You had everything, Ethan, I whispered, until you traded it for a picture on a yacht. The doors clicked shut behind him. The debt was officially collected. 3 months after Ethan was escorted away to serve his 4-year prison sentence, the dust had finally settled over the ruins of Heiress Logistics. The $2 million net profit Vance Capital earned from the auction, along with the civil restitution lien attached to Ethan's future, was fully integrated into my firm's portfolio. Instead of walking away with the cash, I decided to do something that shocked the entire Midwest business community. I used the profits to establish the Vance Shipping and Logistics Cooperative, a brand new modern freight logistics firm built on equity sharing and complete transparency. I didn't rent a glass skyscraper or buy luxury yachts. We leased a modern, functional warehouse downtown and hired back 30 former employees of Heiress Logistics, drivers, dispatchers, and accountants who had been left jobless and unpaid when Ethan's family collapsed. On a crisp autumn morning, I stood on the floor of our new central distribution facility, holding a warm mug of coffee. The sound of electric forklifts hummed softly in the background. Heavy freight trucks branded with the blue and silver Vance logo were lined up at the loading docks, ready to hit the highway. Julian Mercer walked up beside me, holding a tablet with our Q3 earnings report. All 30 route contracts are operating at maximum efficiency, Chloe, Julian said, a genuine smile on his face. Our client satisfaction rate is 98%. And we just closed a new multi-state contract with Apex Freight. What about Thomas Sterling? I asked, taking a slow sip. Julian chuckled softly. Sterling Real Estate tried to outbid us on 2 warehouse leases last week. But when the property owners found out Vance Logistics was running the operation, they refused Sterling's offer and signed with us instead. Ethics always wins in the end, Julian, I replied calmly. Just then, my assistant walked over, handing me a small plain white envelope. This just arrived in the mail, Chloe, she said, from the state correctional facility. I opened the envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter on lined paper, written in shaky, desperate handwriting from Ethan. He was working in the prison laundry room, earning 20 cents an hour. His father had sold their family home to pay off personal creditors, and Richard Hayes was now living in a small 1-bedroom apartment. In the letter, Ethan begged for forgiveness, asking if I could use my influence to write a letter of support for his early parole hearing next year. He claimed he had found God, that he deeply regretted leaving me at the altar, and that he still loved me. I read the letter quietly, standing under the bright lights of my thriving logistics center. 7 years of my life, my trust, my devotion, and my love, had been given to a man who discarded me for a photo on a yacht. I didn't burn the letter. I didn't cry. I simply folded it in half and dropped it straight into the industrial paper shredder near my desk. The blades whirred, reducing his desperate pleas into thin white strips of dust in less than 3 seconds. Everything all right, Chloe? Julian asked softly. I looked out at the fleet of trucks pulling out of the docks, glowing under the golden morning sun. Everything is perfect, Julian, I said, taking a deep breath. Prepare Phase 6. Let's host the official launch party. 1 year after Ethan was led away in handcuffs to serve his 4-year prison sentence, the grand launch party of the Vance Shipping and Logistics Cooperative was held at the Grand Ballroom of the Four Seasons Hotel. The event was attended by over 300 business leaders, city officials, and major press outlets. Where Ethan's family had once boasted about debt-backed growth and fake partnerships, Vance Logistics was celebrated as the fastest-growing, fully solvent transport network in the region. I stood near the glass balcony, wearing a simple, elegant black velvet evening gown, holding a glass of sparkling water. Julian Mercer walked up beside me, handing me a framed certificate from the State Business Bureau. Official recognition as the top logistics employer of the year, Chloe. Julian said, a proud smile on his face. Every single one of our 30 route managers signed a thank you letter to you this afternoon. How are our numbers looking for next quarter, Julian? I asked, looking out over the crowded ballroom. Up 35%. Julian reported. And Thomas Sterling's firm just lost another commercial bid to us. He's officially ceded the entire downtown shipping sector. Just then, a local financial journalist stepped up to our table, holding a microphone. Ms. Vance, the reporter asked politely, your former fiancé, Ethan Miller, recently had his first parole review denied by the board. Do you ever think about him sitting in state prison, knowing that your firm now controls the entire industry he tried to dominate? I looked into the camera lens with a calm, steady, and unyielding expression. Ethan believed that success was something you could steal through lies, fraud, and shortcuts. I answered smoothly. He traded 7 years of loyalty for a temporary illusion of wealth. Today, Vance Logistics stands because of hard work, ethics, and true partnership. I wish him peace while he reflects on his choices. Late that night, after the last guests had departed and the ballroom lights dimmed, I stood on the quiet balcony overlooking the Chicago skyline. My phone buzzed with a short text notification from my uncle Marcus. The past is officially behind you, Chloe. Your father would be immensely proud of the woman you've become. I looked up at the quiet night sky, feeling a deep, unbroken sense of freedom. The betrayal at the altar was answered. The stolen empire was rebuilt from the ground up, and my future was finally completely mine. If you enjoyed this ultimate wedding and business revenge story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more incredible Reddit stories. Now I want to hear from you. What would you have done if your fiancé ghosted your wedding for an heiress? Would you have gone as far as Chloe did? Or handled it differently? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching. And until next time, remember, true success is the ultimate revenge.